Dispatchers help callers on the worst days of their lives. For over 25 years, we've been there. A silent partner in millions of calls thanks to our redundant and diverse networks that ensure call delivery. Today, cities are bigger, traffic more congested, and the challenge is more complex. But you're never alone, because InDigital is quietly improving, implementing, and driving the next generation of 911, so you're supported in every situation. Make the switch at indigital.net.
Have you ever met a 911 professional and asked, what's the worst call you've ever taken? Well, here's your answer. I heard your last breath the night you flipped your four-wheeler. I tried to call you the day you committed suicide by driving your car into a tree. Blue face, cold to the touch. I helped you with CPR after you found your infant face down, not breathing. It messed me up. I did everything I could, but it wasn't enough. You were with me from the beginning, Grandma. 27 years later, I took the 911 call when you died. How fitting to be there for me in the beginning, and I was there for you in the end. I miss you, Grandma. I am 911. This is but a glimpse into the world of emergency dispatch. But what is it really like to answer a call during someone's nightmare? What is the impact of the first responder answering the call? Available on Amazon or where you purchase your favorite books and ebooks. Imagine listening. Your worst day is our everyday.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
We had officer-involved shooting, and it came in as a neighbor had shot another neighbor. He was out working on his motorcycle, and the dude just came up and started shooting at him. He was able to get into his house and lock the door, but he had been shot a couple of times. And so we had officers go over to the residence and go in there and clear the house and kind of go out in the backyard. Well, as our officers are going into the backyard to check the backyard out, make sure everything's fine, they start taking shots across the street from Old Settlers. So they're on one side of Old Settlers in the backyard, and the suspect is on the other side of Old Settlers in the tree line shooting at the house.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader next-gen core services. Big shout out to subscribers as always, and all of you here watching, supporting, listening, and sharing. Thank you for everything. I appreciate you more than you know, and I am fresh back from the 2025 Navigator Conference that was out in Orlando, Florida, and man, was it hot. It was hot, but I'll say this: it's not as hot as it's been at past Navigators, or even any of the APCOs and NINAs, but especially the one APCO that was in Vegas, like around August. Holy moly, it was like 125 degrees. It was nuts. Either way, fresh back from Navigator Conference. It was awesome out there. Saw a lot of friends, met a lot of new people, and it was just an excellent time. And a big shout out to Navigator as well as the IAED for hosting the podcast once again. We have had a partnership since about 2015, I think, something like that, 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. And it has just been an excellent time. So thank you very, very much. And as I was mentioning to my guest earlier, right before we started recording here, it was a long drive back from Florida because everyone was going where they needed to go for the Easter weekend. I'll just leave it at that. It was a long drive back from Florida to Indiana, man. Woo! But it was good. I had a lot of fun with my son Logan and my mom in the car. We were singing through I don't know how many songs, but I think I'm ready for karaoke out at the ranch. Wait, don't hold me to that. Don't hold me to that. But it is April 21st. Yesterday was 420. It was not only Easter, but it was Happy Smoke Day. And now it's 421, which is Random Drug Test Day. So I hope you had a good Easter weekend. And we're going to jump right in. I'm excited to have my guest with me here today. And her name is Lani, and she is a CTO and 911 professional out of Round Rock PD out of Texas.
Hello.
Yeah. What's up? What is going on, Lani?
Not a whole lot.
Oh, it was good to see you and Donna and Giselle and everybody. There's so many names. I'll just say with everybody from alumni from the ranch. It was cool to see you guys out there.
It was a lot of fun out there. It was beautiful weather, and oh my gosh, there were so many people, and yes,
it was interesting. Like, I had so many people coming up, and there was a gentleman, Steven, and he came up and he's like, "What's up, man?" I was like, "What's up, guy?" And he's like, I had a mustache before, and he was telling me, I was like, "Oh, that's right, from the ranch." I was like, "Yeah, the stash is gone." But there was so many people from different ranches there. It was interesting because also when we ended up doing a group photo, for those who are watching and listening, we got a group photo at my booth, and it was funny because people were coming up and then they were saying, "So which ranch are you from?" "Oh, I'm from, March 2024. Like, "Oh, I'm from like September 2023. I think that was one of the coolest things. So, Joe, just letting you know, Joe, thank you. Yes, because you did that. You did that, and it was really cool. And I got to meet you out there as well. And I am super excited to have you on and learn more about your story. Because when we're at the ranch, like, we're there for about 4 days, but sometimes we don't always all get a chance to just like really get to know each other. So I'm excited to have you on and learn more about you. And we're going to go ahead and we're just going to jump right in. So how did you get involved in public safety to begin with?
Well, I was working at a vet clinic that does the canines for our police department. I was working in the boarding section. I actually ran the boarding section at the time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the officers would board their dogs or bring their dogs in for baths or stuff like that. And got to become really good friends with a lot of the canine officers, a lot of them that are no longer here. They're either retired or moved to a different agency. But we became really good friends, and they just kept saying, "You need to come. You've got a great personality. You need to come work for us." And I'm just like, no, I don't think so. And I kind of had hit the top of I wasn't really going to be able to go anywhere. And so it was January or December of 2016, I started applying. And it took about 3 months before I was offered a position as a call taker. Started out as a call taker, and have been there ever since. So
yeah, for one, well done. And you're going on about 9 years, right? Next month it'll be 9 years for you. And so when we kind of think about that process, well, actually before that, with what you were doing though, and they were saying, you've got a great personality, you'd be great for this and everything. Did you have the opportunity to actually do a sit along, or did you just jump right in without knowing what it looked like in there?
I did go over there once to see. It's kind of funny because when you're a kid, you watch the 911 show. The TV show. Loved that show. Loved it. And as a kid, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to do that one day," right? And then you grow up, and things just don't go that way. You don't go with that career, and then coming here to Texas, I moved here in 2001 and was in vet business pretty much from 2001 to 2016. And I just never thought, I thought I'm too old. I'm like 35 going into this position, right? And I'm too old to learn new tricks. But making that transition to helping crazy pet owners to actually helping crazy people, which is kind of funny. I didn't go that far, and it's completely different, but I absolutely wouldn't change my career choice, changing it. Yes, I might have been older, and yes, it might have taken me a little bit longer to kind of get my feet there and feel actually comfortable and set, but I wouldn't change it at all for changing my career path.
That's pretty awesome. Now, I have to ask, just because of the way you put it, dealing with those folks to what you're dealing with now, do you feel like it kind of got you prepared a little bit for what you were going to be dealing with? Even though it wasn't face to face, you still had some of those skills.
Yes. Yeah, because pretty much I dealt with crazy pet owners on the phone all the time or in person. When they would come to the boarding, they would be upset, or, they wanted to make sure that their pets were cared for. And, so you had that empathy, compassion, but also kind of learning to stand your ground as well. And so it kind of helped go into call taking, just having a different, now you're not dealing with animals, but you're dealing with, in a sense, a different kind of animal.
Right. Yes.
And they can either be good or they can be crazy and psycho and mean, and, and so I think it helped a lot just having the communication skills that I had with my previous job coming into.
I can imagine that it takes a lot of patience, especially because I'm an animal lover, and I know a lot of folks who love animals as well. And it's like, kick me in the knee. Okay. Maybe I might let it slide. I might, come at you a little bit. Nothing, too harsh. Kick my dog. And
right.
It's John Wick. Like, it's on. So
yes.
Yeah, I can see, people coming in and just having that love, right, and passion for their animals. Excuse me. And you just happen to be the person that's there, and you're the one who's trying to help them. And I can see how that would definitely help. And those skills, that patience, empathy, like all of that transferring over. So when you start going through, or even that moment when you got to go and see the center, like, was any of it a surprise? Was it, when you saw it in comparison to what you saw in Rescue 911, like, was it eye-opening?
Yes, it was definitely different, definitely eye-opening, because you go thinking maybe in a sense that your comm center has different people, right? Every race, every age is in the comm center. And so I went in this comm center and I'm looking around, I'm like, wow, there are some older people in here. Like, that's impressive. Like, these older people can do it. Then I think I can do this. They're way older than me. So mind you that they've been doing it way longer than me, but still kind of gave me that, okay, we can get out of our comfort zone and try this. It was definitely darker than I kind of imagined. Like, I was thinking maybe they have windows, and they definitely have windows, but they have curtains. And, we laugh because my supervisor now, she used to be a night supervisor. And so she talks about being vampire. And I'm like, no, I like sun. Open the curtains, but it was, yes, I was intrigued. And then I was kind of thinking, what am I walking into? Like, is this really something I want to do? And I had a lot of encouragement from my higher ups. Lee was actually Lee Carrico, who's one of our comms managers. She was in one of my boards, and she just encouraged me that I have a lot of empathy and compassion, little emotional, but that if I can push through what's coming, she had high hopes that I would be a good asset to the team. And so that is definitely always sticks in my mind of what she said to me before I got hired, because I can tell you training was not my favorite. There were many times that I wanted to quit. But, once I hit my 3 month through our training, it was kind of like, now I'm my own person. But there were a lot of hiccups and a lot of obstacles that I had to face and had to overcome to get to that point of being free in my own person.
I think that, all over the country, people are short staffed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in some of those places, if they could have conversations like that they had with you, and to give you that encouragement right off the bat, and say, this is what you're going to be dealing with, but I feel like you're going to be able to do this. Just having that support right off the bat, like it starts in that interview. And I'm not saying it's not like that everywhere. I'm sure there's a lot of places now, even more so, that are like that. But a lot of times, especially when I was first, interviewing and stuff, there wasn't a lot of that stuff mentioned. Like there were some things like, this is kind of what you're going to deal with, but that was it.
Yeah.
There wasn't, I don't remember specifically like, oh, you'll be able to do this. Don't worry about it, or anything like that. Because I think a lot of the times too, some places they're trying to get somebody in there.
Yeah.
And hopefully they work out. Hopefully they don't. But to take that little bit of extra time, like it sounds like with you, to say, basically, you have our support, and we think that you're going to be able to do it. You can push through, some of those emotions and all, and really connect. You've got it. So, I mean, it sounds like with that too, even, before the training, that was a little bit to give you that, like, all right, I think yeah, okay, cool. Like, let's do it. Let's go forward. So how many people work at that agency? What I mean is, on the floor at a time. Like, are there several people that work at a time, or is it just you, or how does it work?
So on my shift, there is a supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the training operator on our shift. And then there's Eric and Chantel, and they're both dispatchers. We are short a call taker on that shift. Our next shift comes in at 11, which is a call taker, Ava. And then our next shift is another training officer that comes in at noon. And then we have a supervisor that comes in. Her time range changes sometimes. So sometimes she'll be in at 2, and then sometimes she's in at 4. But she'll be the second supervisor on shift. And then there's another person that comes in at 4. So usually for a day, if we're not considered short and people don't call out, there's probably about 7 to 8 of us once 4 o'clock rolls around. And then 6 p.m. is our afternoon shift, PM shift that comes in.
Oh man. Okay. So you've got a good amount. The reason I asked too is just for those who are watching and listening, just to give kind of an idea of what you're dealing with, or the people that are around you at the time. Cause like for myself, first starting out, 8-hour shift, and it was just me. But then when I moved to Southwest Michigan and worked at the county that I grew up in, there were 3 of us on at a time minimum. And then on the weekend, there was 4 of us. We probably needed more, but who doesn't need more, right?
Right.
Everybody else needs more. But that's how we worked. So, you go through the interview process, you find out that you got the position. What is going through your head when you find out?
I'm in for a world of change. Just because, you're training. So your schedule is all up in the air. You're either starting 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., you're starting 12 to 12, or you're starting 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And so, they try to train you, 1 month on days, 1 month on nights, 1 month on mids. And so you're getting the whole feel of what each shift is like. Again, I started as a call taker. That was pretty much what I got hired for, and pretty much where I kind of wanted to stay at, but things change, so, but I loved call taking. Again, the training was a little difficult. I felt, and for as a trainer now, there's a lot of things that I like to do differently than what I did when I went through training. I feel sometimes agencies go through high school phases again, which is sad, but it is what it is. And so that's kind of where I felt like I was. I felt like I was back in high school again, and you're having to compete with people like you, or they don't like you. They like your personality. They don't like your personality. And just there was a lot of conflict and struggle for me, just because, like I said, I was 35 coming into a center where I thought would be easy training, but then you hit barriers.
Right.
And, there were times that I probably was a month and a half into my training, and, this one supervisor and me butted heads, and I was like, and the way she treated me and the way they talked to me, and I was just like, I kind of was done. And I remember calling another supervisor saying, I'm done. I'm walking out, and I'm not coming back. I'm too old for the drama in this place. I want to do something that I'm going to enjoy. And right now, training is not something I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the supervisor saying, nope, hang on a second. She hung up with me. She called Lee, and Lee ended up calling me, and I just explained to her what I had just gone through. And I said, I can't do this. This is just not something I don't think I'm meant to do, just because I didn't realize I was coming back to high school. And I ended up going to a different shift with a different trainer. And that made all the more, it just made everything click, and it made me start enjoying the job and seeing past shift issues, and really getting into wanting to be better and wanting to stay and wanting to, thrive in doing what I was doing. And so I just remember loving and enjoying the fact that I could have quit at 2 months into this. I could have, but having people there that liked me for my personality, they liked me for who I was, and wanted to see me succeed, and pushing me to succeed to where I am now, where I'm a trainer. I'm a dispatcher and a trainer. And it's just like, so if anything, I have to say thank you to those people that stood by me and pushed me to be better. And even though I still am emotional, and there's times that I'm still like, what am I doing again? But they're there with open doors saying, hey, come in, get it out. Now get off your butt and go back out there and do your job. So I do appreciate that, having a strong command staff that supports you.
That makes all the difference. Mm-hmm. And I think I will say this. This is something that I've been saying a lot in my in not because there's things going on in those classes, but I want people to know this, because we're talking about communicating with each other, mm-hmm. and going back to basics. And I'm a firm believer that sometimes you have to go back to basics to move forward. And there's a part in my class where I tell people, in every center, there are cliques. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you'll see people go, they'll almost smile, like, oh, he's talking about us or whatever, but they don't know what I'm about to say is the thing. So, and I'm going, there's cliques, and I've been around a long time, and I'm not telling any of you this to scare you or anything. It's more so just something for you to think about. Eventually, those cliques will be broken up, whether it be shift changes, people are on a different shift, or they end up leaving for a different center, or they just decide that they don't want to be in 911 anymore. And if you are the last one who is part of that clique that was shitting on people, mm-hmm. it's going to be now up to you to try to gain that support and trust back from those people you were shitting on, mm-hmm. because people forgive, but they don't forget. And after I've said that, like, some people have been like, oh, but it's true, man. Cause it happened at my center, and it happens at all centers. That stuff happens. If you're the last one, man, better start kissing some ass or something, because again, people forgive, but they don't forget. And that sucks sometimes, So I want to ask before we get to the part about, actually becoming a CTO as well. Do you remember your first call that you took, first 911 call, or maybe even some of the earlier calls when you were first starting out?
My one first call, I remember taking, and this call stays with me.
Mhm.
Actually, Donna and me talk about it because Donna Dudak, who's been on here, she knew the officer. So the first call came in was actually from Travis County. One of
Mhm.
their dispatchers called into us and was like, "Hey, can one of you guys go by and do a welfare check on our officer?" He went 42 and then keyed up and said somebody was in his yard, and went 41 again and said he was chasing these people in his yard. And so we're like, "Yeah, sure." We sent officers over there. I'm still talking to her since, I'm the call taker, and my
Mhm.
coworkers are dispatching out our officers and stuff. And one of our officers, who's now a sergeant, he was the first on scene, and it was just him by himself. I believe maybe there had been another Travis County officer that might have been with him, but they had gone down walking, and where the gentleman lived, I guess he had kind of like a little dip down into a cul-de-sac, or down into a drainage area in the back of his property. And I can just remember his scream on the radio saying that there was an officer down, an officer had been shot. And I remember kind of thinking, did I just hear him right say that? Because I was listening to the radio as well as having to, just so I kind of had that dispatcher ear along with the call taker ear to be able to ask questions when the officers keyed up. And I remember thinking, did he just say that? And he's like, I need assistance. I need assistance. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so like I told Travis County, she heard it too. She goes, we've got help coming. I was like, so do we. And all I could think about as I hung up with her and I'm listening to the radio traffic was, he just went into this forest in the middle of the night, and it's completely dark, without backup, without knowing that the scene was clear. And if there are suspects still there, because the officer had said suspects had broken into his shed, where are they? And is he okay?
Right.
Like, is he safe, and is he going to be shot? And that's kind of just my fear was just like, I never experienced that. And I know the other girls that were working with me, they've, had experiences, and they've been dispatching a lot longer than I had, but I had never experienced just that adrenaline rush. And I remember, we called agencies to get assistance, fire and EMS were rushing in there blind. Nobody, the scene wasn't clear, but they were trying to get there for the officer. And it just was a long night. You go through so many things in your head, like, why, who did this, where are they? You're trying to put a picture together or put a story together of what happened, right? And so we go through the whole scenario. The officer has a funeral, and we were able to go to that. And then we find out that it was a suicide, that it wasn't suspects. And so that was going from, we lost an officer thinking somebody shot him, to a suicide. There was so much going on in my head. I was angry. Like, how could you do that? One, you use so much, people, we're all trying to be there and to lie to your family, and, just the department and all that stuff. And I just remember thinking this was a tough call because, we thought it was this, then you change it to this. And so processing that I remember that call, it's always stayed with me. And me and Donna had talked a little bit about the officer and stuff like that. And she kind of gave me a little bit more insight. And I think that was probably one of my hardest calls as a call taker. And that was probably like maybe 6 months into being a call taker. My next call was a teenager who had committed suicide, and the father had found him hanging. And just Suicide, I think, are my worst calls just because I don't understand them. I don't understand how people, like, I can understand that it's ending their trauma and their voices, that it's ending that for them. But the impact that it leaves behind on everybody else is probably my hardest calls. That and senior citizens, because the older I am, the older my family is, my parents. And so those are my hardest calls. I'm not that, it bothers me, but it doesn't bother me. Like with kids, like there are people, because I don't have kids, I don't take it on as much as like some of my dispatcher coworkers that actually are parents and have kids. Those calls are way difficult for them. But for me, like I'm able to kind of ground and be able to keep them calm and talk to them and be able to get, help my coworkers be able to process that. And versus like seniors and suicide, those are my more difficult calls that I don't like.
I think those are, the reason for that in a sense is just kind of like you said, there's more of a connection for those who have kids versus those that don't. And then, maybe sometimes when, it's dealing with senior citizens or anything like that, it's because we all have, relatives or parents or whatever that, or just friends, people that we know that are of that age, and you connect with some of those. Maybe there might even be some sort of similarities, or, some of these calls that, I've always said that I'm a firm believer that some calls are meant for us because of some sort of life experience, that we have that ends up just clicking, just ends up coming up when you're talking to a person, and they give you even just a little bit of information can trigger something in you where you're like, I know what this is like, or I know someone who's been through this, or just something that's there that it connects us deeper with that caller. Not to say that, our coworkers wouldn't do that great, but because we have that experience, we're able to connect with them because, there might be something that I could say to parents because I'm a parent versus like you, who you're saying, you don't have kids. So you might not have an added know-how or knowledge of something, So I feel like that's where some of those connections end up happening. And man, it's a crazy profession. It's a tough profession, right? So,
Yes.
and like you were saying, a lot of us, even people who come from law enforcement families, like they know, right, some of the things that happens. But when you finally get in there and you are the person who's doing it, then it's a whole new game. And you can train and run scenario after scenario. But when it's your turn, sometimes that goes out the window. Like the training is still in the back of your head, but you're like, it's go time. You're in. So,
Or protocol goes out the window. I mean,
right.
Like we've had, I can't even remember when it was. It was a couple years ago. We had officer-involved shooting, and it came in as a neighbor had shot another neighbor. He was out working on his motorcycle, and the dude just came up and started shooting at him. He was able to get into his house and lock the door, but he had been shot a couple of times. And so we had officers go over to the residence and go in there and clear the house and kind of go out in the backyard. Well, as our officers are going into the backyard to check the backyard out, make sure everything's fine, they start taking shots across the street. So they're on one side of in the backyard, and the suspect is on the other side of the tree line shooting at the house and shooting at them. And that radio traffic was crazy, just because you could hear literally the shots in the radio traffic. And it was just like, what's going on? And so, of course, then you have more officers get there. And as more officers get there, we're getting other calls of, it was that that pulled our group together. We weren't going to walk out. Lee came in, supervisors came in, they started calling people in to help assist us with whatever we needed. And our shift was like, nope, don't touch anything. We're finishing this call. These are our guys. What's happening? We need to know what's going on. And until everybody's safe and he is dead, nobody's taking anything from anybody. Like, that's just how how dedicated everybody was to our guys and making sure everybody was safe. And we all hugged at the end of that, before they told us, okay, you guys need to go home now. We all hugged at the end of that, and we're just like, oh my gosh, like, did this really happen? And thankfully none of our officers were hurt. Nobody was shot, but it was an intense call. Probably one of the most intense calls I've ever experienced.
Oh my Lord.
But that's just one. I remember sharing with you at the ranch, one of my recent ones that still stays with me. And there are days that I still drive by the site of where the girl passed. But I was working overtime on a side, and it was a night shift, and got a call of, it was a 911 iPhone or Apple Watch call that came through, and all you can do is hear somebody crying and screaming, and it disconnected, and we're all like, so I'm trying to look for it. I have coworkers that are helping me. We're trying to plot it. It keyed up over by a retaining pond, hearing the water and knowing that no matter, I know all our guys were trying to get there as fast as they could, but just hearing the water and knowing what was kind of coming, and then the phone dying, and then this in my head call of thinking, oh, we're going to save her, and then going to, oh no, we're not. This is going to be a recovery call, was the hardest call ever, especially because I heard her. Like, I never knew if she knew that somebody heard her, and if she knew that somebody was coming for her, and that we were trying to find her. And it stuck a lot with a lot of our officers. And so there was so much that the officers did. The sad part about this call was that my time of working overtime was up at 2:00 in the morning. And so they were still working everything when I had to leave. So I never got closure that first night, and I had to go home and drive by the scene, because pretty much the scene was kind of like 5 minutes from my house, and I could see the lights and everything over there, and go home and try to go to bed and try to see, did I do everything that I could do to be able to get her? Could there something else that I could have done? Why did she do this? Like, what happened? Like, what? So I played that all in my head. I remember making myself so sick that night, or so sick, falling to sleep. And I don't even think I slept. I remember getting lots of texts in the morning, just asking if I was okay. And supervisors saying, hey, officers came in looking for you. They just want to make sure you're okay. And just thinking, I can't talk about this. This is something that I just have to figure out how to work through my emotions with this call, because I've never heard somebody take their last breath on a call before. And so that was very difficult. And it wasn't until we actually debriefed that I think I actually was able to let a lot of pain that I was holding in, and a lot of resentment and stuff like that I was holding in, go, even though it still affects me sometimes when I talk about it. It was just sad, unfortunately. But mental health, man, is so big right now. I mean, it's just, I know that Joe's doing a mental health out at the ranch. I know 2 of my coworkers are really trying to go to that class. But having more classes or more things available for mental health, and how do you address it? How do you help somebody that, do they want to be helped? Do they not want to be helped? And then how do you live with that?
Right.
Knowing that you did the best that you could, you did what you were trained to do, but they still decided to in their lives, and not having that fall on you because that's not you. Like, you didn't do that. They did that, and not keeping that responsibility of what they did. Let it affect you.
I think that's for one, right off the bat. Thank you so much for sharing each one of those stories, especially the one that you just shared as well. Those are definitely tough ones, but especially that last one that you shared, because I think one of the hardest things is when it's a call like that. What I'm glad that you had, though, that support that's there, because there's a lot of people who don't have that support, or you just go to the next call and you don't get a chance to think. There are some places that they don't have dispatch in the debriefing, which still sucks. That
Right.
sucks altogether. But to have someone at least tell you did everything you could have, there was nothing left, to chance or whatever.
Yeah.
That gift of closure, at least that much, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad too that you have folks that you've met there at the ranch, that you have folks like Donna and other people that you can talk to, people that are ready to talk as well.
Yeah. Well, I could
because-
tell you the ranch. So when I decided to become a dispatcher,
Mhm.
because our agency started becoming short. People were leaving. People were joining the police department or the academy, and so we were at a short to the point where if people don't start stepping up, there's a possibility we'd have to be sent to a different agency for dispatching out of, because we were that low.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, okay, fine. I will train fire. That's it. I don't want to do anything else, just fire. Teach me how to do fire. Train and do fire. Got that done in like 3 months. Because I had kind of started doing fire prior to a couple years ago, just playing with it just to see if it was something I wanted to do. So getting back into it, I did it. And then one of my trainers was like, come on, let's just see if you'll do PD. Just one weekend. Let's just try PD. I was like, okay, fine. And I have to say, I love it. I loved it. We had a kidnapping from out of town that I ended up getting to close the channel for and working attack for it. And I just absolutely loved doing dispatching. And then after I did that, not even maybe, 3-4 months later, I was applying to be a CTO officer because I wanted new people that came in to be just as passionate as I am and to be able to train them to do the job and also have them enjoy the job. And so getting that training position was last May. So it's been a year almost now of being a training officer. The ranch came up in October of last year, right? Was it October 24? November.
November. Yeah, November. Yeah.
And I got to go. And I remember driving out there. I remember getting my room, and I remember thinking, what am I doing here? Like, I'm completely out of my comfort zone because they sent us by ourselves. Because they want us to get out of our comfort zones and to meet new people and stretch, and I remember thinking, I don't know why I signed up for this. I'm not going to enjoy this. I feel really out of place. And I remember running into the first person I met at the ranch was Christy from Beaumont. And she was driving her car and she's headed down to, I believe it's down to the front office area. And I was walking and she goes, hey, you want to ride? And I was like, sure, why not? And I remember getting in the car with her and I remember us just hitting it off. And I was like, wow, she's super cool. And she kind of pulled me under her wing. She's like, hey, let's ride down to dinner together. And I remember riding down to dinner together and thinking, now I've got to really be social and get to meet people. And I'm like, oh gosh, like this is crazy. And I remember getting down there and sitting at the table. And I believe the next person I met was Jolene from California.
Yeah.
She was crazy, and she was attitude. And I was thinking, man, I'm drawn to this girl. Like, she's like, I kept telling her I'm so uncomfortable. I don't, she's like, girl, you just hang with me and we're going to be friends and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. I'm thinking, oh, okay, sure. Yeah, sure. I'll do that. And then the next person was Donna, actually putting a face with Donna, because me and Donna have talked, gosh, since I've worked at Round Rock. She worked at Travis County, and there were times that we talked back and forth, and she's like, you're always super nice when you call over to us. And so we actually were able to put a voice to a face.
Yeah.
And those three girls meeting there, mind you, we have another big little group that kind of we took under our wings as well. But the three of them have changed my life so much. They are friendships that I say are a gift from God, because they have experienced things that I can't tell my family. I can't talk to my best friend about. They understand my feelings and understand what I'm going through, and I can talk to them and they can give me feedback and give me things that I need to hear or things that I don't need to hear. They got me out of my comfort zone. They seriously made me do things that I've never thought of doing sometimes. We started a health kick where we're doing walks and we're doing the Conqueror. And so we have a bunch of other people in our team that are walking. Amy, she's in our group of walkers, and Cassie from Idaho is in our group from walking. And we just had this life-changing thing, not only just kind of mentally with work, but also like physically and health-wise. They are my cheerleaders. I am their cheerleaders. And we are on this health journey as well to get better, so that, because this job is so stressful, and, we sit on our butts all day long, and, we don't exercise as much as we should, and we eat crappy food, and we drink tons of coffee and energy drinks. It's just,
Right.
Our diet of communications is just like shit. I mean, come on. But they have made me see outside the box, to where I even got out of my comfort zone, and we had a girl weekend, the four of us, and went down to, was it San Antonio? Not San Antonio. Yeah, San Antonio, and spent a weekend. Jolene flew in from California to spend a weekend with us. And the ranch, Joe is teaching, you're teaching, Jasmine's teaching, everybody that was out there that weekend, and the things that they've taught, even Joe's new book, Dispatch Supervisor. I remember getting his books at those classes, his fear book, and started reading that, because there are things that I fear. There are things that, I fear. Sometimes I fear other people in comms. I fear sometimes them all talking about me, even though they're not talking about me. It's more of just in my head. But reading those books and being able to find things that can assist with getting out of your comfort zone, getting out of those fears, getting out of those traps that we put ourselves in, and finding escape routes to make us better, not only for ourselves, health-wise, mental-wise, at our jobs, but better for our coworkers, better for our supervisors, and even outside, better for our families. I don't have a family, but my outside family, my best friend, her families, my parents and stuff, like finding and being able to be better for them, because with this job, I've changed. When I first started this job, I changed. I secluded a lot. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go to parties. I didn't know how to express the things that we witness every day in and out, the things that we hear in and out. I didn't know how to express that and be able to share some of that stuff to be able to get that burden off of me. And I remember my best friend coming to a class with me at CapCog and saying, this job has changed her, and not for the good. She shuts down. She doesn't talk. And just thinking, I don't want to be that way. Like, I don't want to be that to my family. I want to be able to find life again and enjoy life again, and not feel like this job's killing me. And so it's just been amazing journey with going to the ranch and meeting the people I have, and getting the books that I need to help me become a better person, and not being one of those people that fall into that trap of burnout and wanting to quit and stuff. So I appreciate all the people I've met with this job.
This has probably been one of the best descriptions of change, not just from the profession, but also what you've learned through your experience in these going on 9 years, but also going to the ranch and what you got out of it as well. Because here's a question. Let's think about a scenario where you did not go to the ranch and you ended up going to Navigator. How do you think that would have been? Because I was walking and I think I was hauling ass to put some stuff back, and you were like, "Hey, what's up? What's going on?" Like, there's like a confidence in just throwing that out at me. And of course, we know each other, right? But if you didn't, like, had you done that, if you were walking, had you just been like, "Yo," like, just to say what up in general, or I don't know, just yeah. Or would you have? Do you think you would have had some of those same experiences, or just going to that conference and trying to get out of your shell as well? Do you think about some of those things? Like, it sounds like it was almost life altering in a way.
Yes, the classes were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I still struggle with a little bit of too many people. It overwhelms me still, but the classes were amazing. I actually got to go with a coworker, Selena, and being able to get to know her better as well. Seeing Donna there, seeing actually a bunch of people. Saw Jasmine there, from Florida, and for that Rapid SOS. And I was like, so being able to see people because of the ranch that I remember, but also the classes that we went to, the classes that they put on, especially the Compassionomic in 911 and in the comm center. That class was absolutely fantastic. The teacher through that class letting us know that it is okay to have compassion in comms, because sometimes people forget their compassion,
Right.
because we get burnt out in what we do. But knowing that it is okay to have compassion in comms, compassion with your coworkers, compassion with the people that we're talking to and trying to help, compassion with the officers and the firefighters. And once you lose that compassion or any kind of sense of empathy or anything like that, then you've been in the job too long. You need to retire. If you can't find that love or be able to get out of, we're going to have a shit day some days, and some days our attitudes are going to suck, and we don't want to help people, and we want to be crabby, and we want to be, sarcastic and rude sometimes. But if we find ourselves staying there and not getting out of that ditch, then who are you helping? You're not helping yourself. You're not helping your coworkers. You're not helping the people that we're supposed to be helping.
Right.
But being able to have that passion for the thing, for what we do, and moving on is just, yeah. So Navigator was fun. Outside of the classes, I absolutely loved. Other than that, I'm so glad to be home. I'm so glad to be home.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on at those, but I feel like, though, there's been a lot of growing for you specifically. There's been a lot of things that you've dealt with throughout your dispatch career, and things that you've learned And I was going to ask you, why you became a CTO to begin with, but you already answered it, and you answered it beautifully. I didn't even have to ask you, because it's always one of two things. Either one, you had crappy training, and that was inspiration enough to be like, you know what, I don't want anybody else to have to go through this. And so you become, someone becomes a CTO, a trainer, or they had awesome training and they want to continue that cycle of, almost that legacy of that good training going on, so that, again, same but different in the sense that literal next generation of 911 that's coming in, they get that same level. Because I think all of us also, while we're going through it, and maybe we go through some shit when we're, in dispatch, no matter what it may be, we want to leave 911 in a better place
Right.
than where we found it. Or not just where we found it, but some of the things that we dealt with, so that others won't have to go through that as well. However, if they do, you have that experience and you're able to talk to those people, because sometimes, not even sometimes, all the time, like, we don't know what others are going through.
Right.
And I'm at the point where here's a quick example. On the way home, driving back from Florida, my mom and my son and we stopped at a fast food joint in Tennessee, and we waited like 30 minutes. Like, we went inside and ordered. We were just going, but we went inside because we were going to use the restroom and stuff. And it was about 30 minutes before we got our food. However, all the other people that were waiting there as well, they were being very shitty to this girl who's probably about 17, who was running the register. And I felt super bad for her. And I remember just watching all of these people give her crap. And they're like, can you check our order? Can you check our order and stuff? And when it was finally our turn to get our food, most of the people had left. Now, some of them, I think, were DoorDashers or Uber Eats or whatever. So I get it that they were in a hurry, but dude, that person doesn't have control.
Right.
Have a little patience. Like, I get it. You've got ratings. There's probably all this other stuff, but come on. Seriously, there's worse things to be pissed off about or annoyed or whatever. And so when we got our food finally, I said to her, I said, thank you very much, for the food. And she's like, like, you could see the look on her face. And she's just like, I'm so sorry, for the wait. And I said, you know what? Don't even worry about it. And without thinking, I said out loud, like loud, because there were still people who were pissing and moaning around us. I said, we're not impatient. We understand. And she just smiled and kind of chuckled and was like, thank you. and we walked off. And when we left the restaurant, my son goes, Dad. And I said, you know what? I said, someone might think that I was an asshole for saying that, but all of them were being assholes to that one person. You don't know what that person is going through. For all we know, she's working and, she lost a family member or something, or a friend, or, going through a bad breakup. We don't know that.
Right.
Like, I have other things to worry about. Like, we're just waiting for food. Come on. Right. We're still going to wait anyway.
What that kind word that you said to her could totally have made her, like you said, she could have been thinking of suicide after work, and just your kind word just made her night, like.
Yeah, exactly. And
what we say.
And it's the same thing being in dispatch, whether it's a new person coming in or someone who's been there forever. The profession is hard as it is. Yeah. Why are we going to shit on each other? And we're the only ones who know what it's like. So for you, as I'm talking about this as well, all of those experiences that you have, you now are in a place where someone might be having a crap day or have gone through a situation, that you have that experience and you can say, I know what you're going through. And just that little bit can help that person, just like you were saying, completely change it around to where that person is like, I'm not alone. There's actually somebody else there who knows. And I think that's why it's good for us to have conversations like we're having now, but also for us to be able to communicate in the center, because we are the masters at communication. But when it comes to communicating with each other, It doesn't always happen. And I think it's a lot of it is that fear. It's that fear that we're going to be judged or anything else. But damn it, we use our voices for a living.
Yeah.
Why not use it on each other?
Yes.
This has been amazing. We're just over the hour, and it doesn't even feel like we've been talking that long. I could talk to you forever. Like, seriously, this has been awesome to have you on here to learn more about you and hear your stories. And again, thank you so much for sharing all of those. Yeah, it has been an honor to have you on. And so I have one last question for you.
Okay.
And it's a question that I didn't tell you about.
Oh goodness.
But it's an easy one. It's
Okay.
one that I tell or I ask everyone at the end, and it's actually a question that I asked you as well already back at the ranch when we were all there. It was one that I told you, I want you all to take this with you. It's just something to think about. So here's the question. If you could go back in time, because you're going on 9 years being in this profession. So if you could go back in time to talk to yourself and to give yourself a little advice or say a couple things, and again, it's not to change anything, because I feel like there's a lot of things that we go through that bring us to the person that we are today with all of that life experience. But if you could go back in time to talk to yourself, what would you say to yourself?
I would say to not take everything personally, because like we know, people have bad days. We don't know why they have bad days, and they bring that bad day into comms, and it makes sometimes a day a living hell. But not being able to take it personally and thinking it's about you, because it's not, it's about them and whatever they're going through. And then being able to leave it at the door and not taking it home and picking it apart in your head while you're at home. Like, what did I do? What do I have to change? And remembering it's not yourself, it's just the situation, and not taking that to heart, and being able to just take work, go to work, leave your home issues at the door before you walk in, deal with work, and then before you come home, leave your work issues at work and not bring them home, and living life outside of work.
Perfect.
Not all about work.
Right. Yes. Thank you again so very much for coming on. This has been so much fun. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you.
Thank you.
So I will be right back here with you in just one moment. So hang tight. And for those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, or you ever want to be a guest on the show, the easiest way to do all of this is to simply go to links. And that's links with 2eyes.co/WTT podcast. Once again, that is links with 2eyes.co/WTT podcast. You'll find everything there. You'll find my email, all of the social media, where to follow, where to hear the latest episode of not only Within the Trenches podcast, but also I'll be adding the new podcast on there, Imagine Listening, which is all just stories based off of the Imagine Listening sessions, as well as the open mic piece, because we need some of that lighthearted to be able to balance a lot of those heavy stories that come out of Imagine Listening. So you can find all of that there. You can order the volume 1 and volume 2 of Imagine Listening, the books there with all of the stories, a good chunk of the stories that have been submitted for the I Am 911 movement. And there's also a couple links on there, one for the free community, the trenches that I have. Make sure to check that out. Now that I'm back from like just straight up traveling, I'm going to be back on there adding a bunch of stuff to it, so make sure to check that out. Once again, it is free. And then also I think it's about 200 free hours of continuing education from all of the Dare to Be Great sessions, as well as the Dispatchers Roundtable sessions. All of it is there. You can check it out. And again, that is links with 2eyes.co/WTT podcast. This broadcast has been sponsored by InDigital, a leader next gen core services. Shout out to all of the subscribers as always, but again, especially all of you who've been watching, listening, supporting, and sharing. Thank you very much. This can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, as well as X and LinkedIn Live. And there are also clips on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook Reels. And then you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you all in the next one.
Imagine listening to someone's worst day every single day. Imagine listening as someone experiences life, through their worst nightmare to the miracle of birth or a life saved. I'm Ricardo Martinez, a former 911 dispatcher, and for years, I've been recording the voices of a hidden world, ours. I've provided a space for 911 dispatchers to share their powerful stories. It started as a peer support session and continues. Dispatchers sitting together, sharing out loud, or writing down what they couldn't say. Some stories will grip you. Stories of heartbreak, resilience, and calls that haunt us long after the line goes quiet. But imagine listening is more than heavy emotion. It's about healing. It's about laughing through the chaos, lifting each other up, and reminding the world that dispatchers are human too. The lighthearted will balance the heavy. Experience the power of storytelling, a podcast for the thin gold line and those who want to understand it. This is Imagine Listening. Your worst day is our everyday. Subscribe now wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.